right, let's get Jared up here. Let's get him started and ready to go. And I will flip off my screen.
All righty.
We got you up.
Hope
I got
everybody's
video. Got audio.
got video and got audio. Good.
Very
All
good.
right. Yeah. Hope everybody's having a great day. I apologize. I'm recovering a little bit from the flu, so try to get through this. But yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it. I don't got any slides today. It's a lot of information to cover in a short period of time. So I think a couple of months ago, I created a YouTube dashboard around the analytics for my channel. And if you are a YouTube creator or just visiting YouTube, it provides you a set of analytics for your channel. But I wanted to see, what does that data actually look like? Can I do something else with it? Can I customize it a little bit? And so I started messing around with the APIs, and it was a really fun project because I was able to kind of really deep dive into the world of APIs for the first time, expand on some Python, tie that in with prep, and then do some cool things with the dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. All right. So actually, I'll start here. So what I had to do for this was I had to first go and create a profile for the Google developer platform. So they have this developer platform, and it's all of the APIs that Google has to offer. So like the Google Drive, YouTube, BigQuery, like all of the APIs that are encompassed within Google's platform are on this developer platform. But I was just really looking to get into the YouTube APIs. And so I had to create this profile here, and you can see if I go to enabled APIs, I've got some YouTube Analytics API, YouTube Data API, and then this YouTube Reporting API, which I don't think I really use. I think I just mainly use these two. And so I had to create this profile, create this project that you see here. So this project is called YouTube Dashboard, and then that allowed me to get what I was really after, which was this this API key here. So this API key and then these this client ID over here are what I needed to get the Python to actually access the API. And I also needed it to create my authentication tokens, because the one sort of downside about the API is that it forces you to go into your browser and do the sort of manual authentication, allow access to this profile. And so I needed to use some of these to get around that. So that is what this code is doing here. So I have, first what I have is this little, I've got this get refresh token Python code. This one's pretty simple. Because my project, it's not a published project on Google's platform, it's like a project in testing. The refresh token actually expires once a week. So I have to run this once a week, go in and manually authenticate this script. But then what that does is it kind of goes in and you can see it accesses that YouTube API, and it creates this credentials.storage file. And so that is this file here, which really all I'm after is this right here, this refresh token. So once I get that refresh token, then I can take that and plug that into my my variables here. So I take that, I get my, really, I probably could do this in a better way, probably a more efficient way of just having this access that storage file rather than pasting it into the code itself. At the time I built this, I was just trying to get something that worked. I'm not really thinking about the most efficient way to get it done. But that's really what this code is doing here. And I've got 3 separate pieces of Python script because the information is actually split up into different APIs. So like I said, there's the reporting API, the data API, and then just the YouTube API. And so Information on my channel is in the data API. Information as far as videos, how many, who's watching them, how many times are they being watched, all of that. That's in the other API. So I had to write a separate code to hit each of these separate APIs depending on what I was trying to get. So for this one, this is my analytics by channel. So what this does is if I kind of scroll down here, I know there's a bunch of stuff going on here, but essentially all you need to know is that up here, we're just setting our variables for our refresh token, API keys, and all that. Down here, I'm just telling the code to go in and access the API using those variables. And really down here is where the actual work is happening. So for my channel data, I create these lists, right? So one for the ID, the date, minutes watched, views. So this is how that data comes out of the API. And so what I do is create these lists. So that way, as the data comes in for every day that my channel has existed, I'm capturing those metrics there, the minutes watched, views, likes. And so each day is its own row. And then so I'm taking each of those rows and storing these values into these lists. And I'm doing that so that way I can take this and turn it into a data frame, which is what prep is going to actually access. So that's really all that's happening here. I'm taking the channel data by day, turning it into a data frame. I do some changing of data types down here. And really the most important part of using Python within prep is going to be this down here, this get output schema. So what this does is it tells prep how to read each of the columns that are coming from this data frame. So you can see prep string, prep integer. So this is what, whenever the Python code runs in prep and starts pulling through, this is the function that allows it to do that. And so, with the APIs and really getting into all of the different complications of trying to access it, I do have a video on my channel, Put Some Prep in Your Step, where I do try to get a little bit more into what I had to do, how I created that profile, some of the intricacies of each of these pieces of Python code. So if you want to get a little bit more of a deep dive there, definitely recommend checking that out. But yeah, that's what this code is doing, right? So first, getting my analytics by day for the channel. And then over here, I've got the actual video titles are, again, stored separately. So when those metrics are pulled out, it's really only pulling it out based on each video ID. So I have to hit another piece of the API to say, what are the actual titles and descriptions associated with those video IDs? So that's what this one does. It goes in and extracts from all of the JSON, all of the nested JSON, to say, for this video ID, what is its title, when was it published, and what's its description? And it loops through for every video ID that I have in my channel. So that's another area where I could definitely improve a little bit for efficiency. So right now, the way when it's looping through, it's kind of hitting that API over and over and over and over again. So ideally, what I would want to do in a future state is set it to where I'm getting my lists and getting that information without having to call that API over and over again, because there are some hard limits there. And so that's what this one is doing. And then this one here is getting my, or actually, if I can get this out of the way here, there we go. This one here is going in and getting the actual analytics per video per day. So the first one was just overall at the channel level. This one is going in and actually looking at every single video, pulling the data for every single day associated with that video. So that's the code. Then that's what the code is doing. But what I really wanted to do was see, join some of these things together, tie them together. And then if you don't know, I think it was around the summer, I started creating some Tableau prep templates, which was taking some of the popular Viz templates and workbook templates from the Flores twins, from CJ Mays, from just all of these different workbook templates, and creating the prep flow that could go with it to prepare all of your data instead of having to go through the Excel files. And so I have one for the curvy bump chart. And so I wanted to see, could I take this data, combine it in a way that makes sense for the dashboard, but then also run it through that template to make a dynamic bump chart. And so in my prep flow over here, so this is the prep flow I created for it. So you can see here I've got the channel data, here I've got the video data, and then here I've got the video titles. And the input step that's in front of it, that's because you can't actually use the Python or the script step as an input. You do have to have an input step in front of it. And so these are just empty CSVs that have the same naming convention as the Python and the resulting data frame for the Python, because I did start to run into some errors as I was trying to kind of edit the data using those when the data frames were like more generalized. It wasn't really doing what I wanted it to do. So I had to make sure that these empty files, and if it wants to load for me here, yeah, it's just an empty CSV that has the same column names. And I think I also made sure that the data types on those were the same as well. So really the only things I had to join together here were the videos and with their video titles. So just making sure that each of those IDs has its title associated with it. So that's what's going on here. And this union, what's happening here is I'm taking the channel data and unioning it with the video data. And so this is kind of I'm only doing it this way because I'm familiar with the data and I know exactly what I want to do with it. But it can be a little tricky and messy to have two different levels of aggregation in your same data set. And that's kind of what I did here, right? So I've got channel data, but then I've got my video data all unioned. So I had to make sure that I was accounting for that in the actual interactivity and functionality of the dashboard. And so I'll touch on why I did it that way once we get to the dashboard. But that's all that's happening here. And that's where I get the main analytics from. So this output here, this is what is the dashboard is showing kind of my stats over time, change versus previous period, my bar charts showing all of the total stats for the videos and the categories. That's what's coming out of this output. But down here in this section of the flow, this is actually this piece right here. This whole piece right here is my prep template that I created for the curvy bump chart. So really all I had to do was make sure that I isolated each of the metrics in this data set. So minutes watched, views, subscribers, likes. So I had to isolate all of those metrics and then pivot them. That way I could take those and then restructure the data and densify it to work for the bump chart. And I really was interested, or I was experimenting with this a little bit, and I was happy with the way it came out because I'd used the curvy bump chart before, but for one metric. And so with this way, it's going to actually be able to toggle between all of my metrics and have the correct ranking and the correct flow for each of those metrics. And so that's what this output is here. This output is just for my curvy bump chart. So again, this output, which was the more simpler one, is all of my analytics. And this one is just the bump chart. And so the way that I actually have this running is I have it on my task scheduler. So I've got these two commands. There's this one, which is it runs tabpy. So tabpy runs in the command line. It is what actually allows prep to establish the connection to the tabpy server and run Python. So that has to be running for prep to pick up the Python. And so I have that one that runs at 8:28 a.m. And then right after that at 8:30, the actual prep flow runs. And so I'm running that prep flow from the command line. And I would run it right now, but it takes quite a while. So just trust that it works. And what we end up with is this. So like I said, that that main simpler piece of the flow is what gives me all of these metrics up here. So we've got stats over time, what the changes versus the previous period. We've got the bar charts by each category and then each video. But then that prep template is what creates this curvy bump chart. And so what I mean by it being dynamic is right now I've got it by views, but then I can also change it to minutes watched. And it's ranking, now it's ranking by minutes watched. I can change it to the view duration. It's ranking by the view duration, right? So that was really my main goal with experimenting by using multiple metrics in the template rather than just the one. So, and as the data updates, it continually, so like right now we're in December. And so this video, the aggregate step, how does it work, is currently ranked 18, but that could change. And so it'll constantly re-rank it and make sure it's in the right spot as it runs. So the two different levels of granularity, I talked about the channel data and the video data being stacked on top of each other. And the reason for that was because of likes, no, not likes, sorry, subscribers. So subscribers don't always happen at the video level. Sometimes somebody is watching a video and they click subscribe directly from the video. A lot of the time what happens is somebody will just stumble upon the channel and they'll just subscribe from the channel. So when they subscribe directly from the channel, that is stored in the channel data. But then if they subscribe directly in the video, that is stored in the video data. So I had to find a way to make sure that I could represent subscribers both at the channel level and at the video level. So that way, if I were to click on this video here and filter to that, I could still see where in time subscribers are hitting this video. But then if I'm not filtered to a specific video, I can still see overall how my channel is doing subscriber wise. And so that was really the only reason I had to stack them on top of each other. Like that was specifically to account for the subscribers there in the way that they're stored a little differently. And I really did also want to be able to track and see if there are certain videos that are attracting more subscribers to the channel or not. And then of course, like if I come and highlight one of these or click on one of these, it'll highlight that video specifically. Or if I click on one of the videos in this chart down here, it'll filter to that video, but then once I click off of it, it's still highlighted in the bump chart. So yeah, I mean, I think there was a couple of challenges and a couple of problems that I was trying to tackle here, right? One was, can I get to my YouTube data? Two was, can I use prep as that sort of middle ground automation piece for API data? I hadn't really worked with APIs, and I know it's more that prep doesn't have a built-in API connector. So I was just wondering, if I know how to hit the API through Python, then what can prep do with it? And does that actually work? Is it something that I can automate? Is it something that I can actually utilize? And so, kind of going through this process, connecting directly to the Python. I mean, that's essentially what this is, right? This is just every day establishing that direct connection to the API, and then pulling that data in, transforming it, and giving it to me in a format that I really wanted to work with. Another couple of things that I was able to work with here, aside from just automating it, working with the prep templates, I was actually able to use tab CSS, the extension tab CSS here. So all of this design, the rounded corners, the drop shadows, this is all inside of Tableau using the tab CSS extension. So none of this is Figma or PowerPoint or Illustrator. It's all in Tableau using that extension. So I was able to explore quite a bit of new things, try to do something differently design-wise. I was able to use that gradient area chart that I think the Flores twins had posted on their website. Like, they just happened to post it the day that I started working on this. So I was like, oh, perfect. Something else that I can try to incorporate in here. And then I think the fact that it was a dashboard about my YouTube channel, which has to do with Tableau Prep. And I used Tableau Prep as the main source and transformation piece behind all of it. It was just a nice passion project for me to do. And, you know, like I said, I could really go into detail. The APIs, the YouTube APIs specifically, there's so much documentation around them. You know, here I've got the documentation that they have. So there's all kinds of different things that I still haven't even explored yet, like the geography, which countries am I getting the most views from, or what are the age groups that are getting the most views from. A lot of that data is a little bit incomplete, even on the YouTube platform when I look at the analytics on that platform. But yeah, I mean, so many different things that I still haven't even touched yet within those APIs that I hope to eventually incorporate. But yeah, I think I did pretty good on time there. So I will open up the floor.
That was awesome, Jared. I think what you've really hit on here is kind of the future of what we'll be doing soon. Because if you think about it, there's no database involved. You're not bringing down CSV files or Excels, taking up a lot of storage space. And really, you're connecting to the API. It's giving you your data, and you're writing out, and it's going right to your visualization. It's really lightweight, and from a corporate standpoint, there's no overhead really, beyond the Tableau component. So it makes a lot of sense, and I think it will definitely take off. It's funny. I've actually talked to Tableau developers, and I don't know if they really get it. Where I'm like, this is kind of what we want. This is kind of what we will need soon, and I don't know if it's completely resounded. So love the presentation. I think this will actually definitely send a link to some of those developers and go, hey, this is what we want. Let's take a quick look at how to do this a little bit easier. But still,
yeah, and I mean,
for those.
yeah, and it was the same concept. So recently on Twitter, I've been posting a bunch on NHL data that I've been gathering, and it was the same thing. Because I knew I was able to do it with this project, it's been the same, just taking the Python and running it straight through Prep. And so my dashboards are like, I'm not storing that data anywhere other than the output that I'm connecting to for my dashboards. And it changes every day, and it's and depending on how you work with it, it's starting to hit that sort of semi real time because the APIs are so that data is hitting them so instantly. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of room for Prep to really grow in that space.
I have to totally agree. Now, I will put out a word of warning where it's just sometimes the exploration on connecting to APIs that can take a good amount of time just to try to figure out. But like you said, some of these, they're so well documented. There's so many people using them. Even, really a quick search through YouTube will show you kind of how to go through and connect. Really is awesome stuff. And on top of it, using tab CSS in the dashboard, really cool. It's something that not a lot of people know. It's an extension, and anybody out there can use it. I'm waiting for it to come into Tableau Public, and it'll just blow up.
Yeah. I had to for the actual one that I published on Tableau Public, I did have to go in, basically recreate my background so that way it would render appropriately. But this version of it is not using the Figma background. This one's just using the tab CSS, which I feel like actually looks a little bit cleaner than what I'm able to get from some of those other workarounds.
Very cool. Yeah. I'm dying for that. I hear it's close to being approved in Tableau Public, so hopefully, crossing fingers, it'll be there soon, and we'll see more of that there. Just taking a look around to see if there's any questions or anybody has anything in there too. But Jared, awesome, fantastic presentation.